The movie starts in a restaurant named Hunger, and we see a group of chefs while they are working with vigor and activity, and the assistant chef is standing announcing the time. And that is because they must finish their work in a specific time before the restaurant owner comes. And indeed, after the time ends, the restaurant owner, whose name is Paul, comes. And we know that Paul is a famous chef, and his restaurant is not entered except by the rich who are from the elite of society. And it is clear that Paul is very precise in his work and cares about the smallest details, besides that he has a specific way in preparing the food and presenting it to the degree that he is in a special party and presents lobster on a group of rocks. And he has made a sauce with a very strange color. But in the end, the meal, its shape is distinctive, and its taste is delicious to the degree that the owner of the party, when he tastes the food, he cannot resist its taste. And we go after that to a restaurant in a poor neighborhood, and a girl named May is working in it, and we know that this restaurant belongs to her father, and May is the one who cooks the food herself, because the restaurant does not provide, except one dish, which is noodles, and May is proficient in the secret of the noodle recipe that she inherited from her family, and this recipe is a secret recipe. And a customer named Tony is sitting in the restaurant, and he admires very much the taste of the noodles after he smells its scent, and we know here that Tony works as a cook in Hunger restaurant, and at that time Tony goes to May and gives her the restaurant card and tells her that she is a talented cook, and it is a loss to bury her talent in this poor restaurant, and he informs her that he will pass by her the next day in order to take her to do a test in Hunger restaurant. And after that, Tony leaves her and goes away, and when May finishes her work, she sits with her friends, and it appears that they do not like the life of poverty that they are living, and we know that May did not complete her education in order to work in the restaurant and help her father, but May is satisfied with her condition because her younger sister is learning and focused on her studies. But suddenly, she remembers the Hunger restaurant card that she took from Tony, so she takes out the card and shows it to her friends and tells them that there is someone who gave her this card and wants her to work in this restaurant. So her friends are amazed as soon as they see the card and know that this restaurant is very famous, and its customers are all from the rich, and they tell her that this is a big opportunity for her, and she must not waste it. So May searches for Chef Paul on the internet, and she is amazed by the pictures of the meals and sees him as he is photographed with a large number of celebrities who tried the food at his place in the restaurant, and finds very high ratings from people for the restaurant. So May likes the matter and dreams that she will be a famous chef like Paul. And on the next day, Tony comes and May goes with him to the restaurant, and there she is amazed by the shape of the kitchen and the tools that are in it, and May knows that there is a cook who will do the same test, and this cook is a graduate from a school specialized in cooking. And as soon as Paul arrives, this cook goes to him and tells him that he is ready for the test, and informs him that he worked in big restaurants before, but Paul interrupts him and tells him that he is not allowed to speak without permission. And after that, Paul asks him and May that they make a fried rice dish, and May is confident in herself and in her abilities and ignores the comments of the cook competing with her and focuses on what she is doing, and Paul is standing following what they both are doing with interest. But when they finish, the dish of the cook who is competing with May is very organized, and its shape is beautiful, but May's dish, its shape is ordinary. And at that time, Paul takes a spoon from May's dish and smells the scent of the food, and it appears that the food liked Paul without tasting it. And he tells the second cook to return to his home because he failed in the test, but the cook does not like Paul's words and tells him that the dish that May presented, its shape is very bad, but Paul hits him on his face and asks him to leave from the restaurant. And after that, Paul asks May why she wants to work in his restaurant, so she tells him that she wants to be special and be a famous chef. So at that time, a slight smile appears on Paul's features, but after that he approaches her and smells her scent and tells her that the scent of the fried noodles that emanates from her is not suitable for the place, and asks her to bathe and change her clothes. So May executes the words, and when she wears the restaurant uniform, she is very happy, and after that Tony introduces her to their colleagues who are working with them, and makes her understand the specialty of each one of them. And after a little bit of time, Paul enters upon them and tells them that they have a big party made by a former general in the army and also informs them the type of meat that will be presented to the guests of the party, which is from the types of very expensive meat. And at that time, May is surprised that Paul chooses her in order to cut the meat, and also informs her of the way of cutting the meat. But when May starts in cutting the meat, he does not like her work, so May keeps trying more than once, but Paul is not satisfied with her way in cutting the meat. But May is able to reach the required meat slice in the end, so Paul asks her that she fry it, but also he does not like her way in the cooking of the meat, and he keeps shouting at her and telling her that he hired her because he saw her good at cooking the food on the fire, and tells her that if she wants to be special, she must do what he says. And if she does not like his words, then she can leave the restaurant normally and go away. And as soon as Paul goes out from the kitchen, May is very frustrated to the degree that she changes her clothes and was going to leave actually, but suddenly she changes her mind and decides that she proved to Paul that she is up to the responsibility, and she enters the kitchen and tries to fry the meat as Paul wants it until the next day. And at that time, her colleagues enter and find her sleeping on the ground from the intensity of the fatigue. But when Paul comes, May stands up and lights the fire and fries the meat while she looks at him with intense defiance. And after she finishes it, she presents it to him, and the meat is fried in the way that Paul wants exactly. And when he tastes it, he likes it very much, but he does not show it in front of her. But it appears at that time that May's hand has many oil spots on it, so Tony comes and gives her a tissue in order to wipe her hands, so May wipes her hands, and she is happy that she proved her merit. And on the day of the party there are very important people, and among them is a famous businessman named Tuz. And at that time, May knows from Tony that Tuz tried to be the sponsor of the restaurant. And after that, May fries the meat in front of the party guests, and they are very happy with her, and this makes her very proud of herself. And after that, Paul prepares the food plates in a distinctive way. And when the food is presented to the guests, they like it very much to the degree that they lick the plates literally after they finish eating. And at that time, Tuz is amazed by May's skills, so he goes to her and gives her his card and tells her if she needed help to call him at any time. And on the next day, May goes with Tony in order to buy requests for the restaurant, and May knows from Tony that Paul used to go down to buy the food materials himself. And Tony used to go with him until Paul trusted him and made him the one who buys them. And Tony tells May that Paul likes to buy the best products even if he will pay a lot of money for them. And on the next day, May is standing in the kitchen and does not find anything to do, so she asks Paul what she will do, so he asks her to go to polish the plates or wipe the floor or throw the garbage. But May gets annoyed and tells him that she is an assistant chef and not a cleaning worker, so Paul tells her that, not meaning that the guests of the last party liked her work. That's it. She became special and asks her to go to cut the vegetables instead of her colleague. But as soon as May starts cutting the vegetables, Paul asks her to be faster and keeps asking her to increase her speed until she cuts her hand in here. Paul tells her that she does not know how to do anything except frying only, and after that he goes to a party in the house of a rich young man. And as usual, Paul presents the food in his way, and the audience likes it very much, and Dang, Paul's assistant, is focused with the young people who are in the party and wishes that he lives a life like the one these young people are living, but Paul says to him that if he wants to become rich and famous, he must focus in his work, and he must have a food menu that he invented himself. And at that time, May is hearing this talk and focuses in it. And when she returns to her father's restaurant, she presents to him a luxurious dish from the restaurant, but she is surprised that her father does not like the food, and tells her that it is not because the food is expensive, it must be its taste delicious. And he stands up to prepare for them the noodles that they are used to, and after that May visits Tony in his house, and he starts to teach her how she cuts the vegetables quickly without cutting herself, and also teaches her other things in the arts of cooking. And on the next day, May is in the restaurant, and at that time, one of the cooks is smoking a cigarette, but suddenly Paul enters and sees him, so the cook gets nervous and tries to throw it, but Paul approaches him while he is angry and forces him to complete the preparation of the food and the cigarette in his mouth, and keeps talking with him until the cigarette falls from the cook inside the food. So here Paul says that if this happened and the food was presented to the customers like this a disaster will happen. And at that time, the reputation of the restaurant that he is building for years will be destroyed, so the cook apologizes to him and tells him that he knows his mistake. And after that, Paul informs them that there is a thief in the team and informs them that he stole meat of the expensive type and asks from whoever did that among them to confess, and this instead of him reviewing the surveillance cameras. And at that time, he will hand him over to the police. So here May is doubting that Tony is the one who did that, because she saw at his place the type of meat that Paul is talking about. But suddenly, one of the cooks raises his hand and confesses that he is the one who stole the meat, and makes the excuse that he for years presents it to the customers and never ate from it. But Paul ignores his talk and kicks him out, and after that he asks from the rest that they prepare for a party on the next day, and which will be in the house of a person celebrating the birthday of his daughter. And at that time, May presents the food to the girl herself. So the girl likes the taste of the food and puts a star for her on her clothes. And after that comes the time of presenting the soup. But Paul smells its scent and pours it in the garbage and starts preparing himself another type of soup with simple ingredients. And at that time, no one of the cooks is understanding anything. But when they return to the restaurant, they find Paul shouting at Tony and telling him that the soup had shrimp in it, and he warned him that this girl has an allergy from seafoods, and if she had drunk from the soup she would have died. But Tony tells him that he is sure that he prepared the soup without putting shrimp in it, and here, Paul discovers that Dang is the one who did that, so he gets angry at him and shouts at him intensely because of what he did, and tells him that jealousy and hatred controlled him, and that he was intending to spoil his reputation and destroy him. But suddenly Dang grabs a knife and stabs Paul in his stomach, and after that Paul is moved to the hospital, and his injury is not dangerous, but he is very angry and refusing to eat any food from the hospital. And at that time, May comes in order to be reassured about him, and she had brought him with her noodles from the ones she makes in her father's restaurant, and as soon as Paul tastes the noodles, its taste likes him very much, and tells May that the poor eat any food in order to satisfy their hunger, unlike the rich who brag about the varieties of food that they eat. So May asks about the reason that made him be a cook. So Paul starts here telling her his story, and we return in time to the days of Paul's childhood. And at that time, his mother is working as a maid at rich people, and Paul wishes to taste the caviar that they eat, but when he starts to try it, the little boy sees him and says about him a thief. So Paul gets scared, and the jar falls from him on the ground and breaks. And at that time, the lady of the house shouts at Paul's mother and deducts the price of the caviar from her salary. And when Paul picks up the caviar from the ground, he tastes it and discovers at that time that its taste is very bad. And from that time, Paul decides that he be a big and special chef. And in the current time, Paul tells May that he is enjoying when the rich beg him in order to cook for them, and enjoys more when they keep waiting for him until he finishes the food for them. And for that he is intending to take a long time while he prepares the food for them, because he likes to see them while they try the feeling of hunger. And after Paul restores his health, he takes his team, and they go to a place in the forest. And there is one of the rich making a big invitation, but May is surprised when she finds him hunting a bird threatened with extinction, and asks from Paul that he cook it. And Paul agrees, so May argues with Paul and tells him that this is contrary to the law, but Paul tells her that if she wants to be special, then she must not focus in the matters that are of this sort. But May, Paul's talk does not like her, and she resigns from her work. And after that she calls Tuz and goes to meet him, and Tuz exploits the opportunity and tells her that he will support her until she becomes a famous cook and makes for her a private restaurant of her own, and brings for her cooks in order to help her. And May is able that she succeeds in her work and presents special dishes, and she has many customers and becomes famous in a short time, until a day comes and Tuz tells her that she will present food in a party made by one of the most famous ladies of society. But a day before the party, May is surprised that Paul visits her in the restaurant, so she presents to him varieties of the food that she makes, and after Paul tastes the food, he refuses to say his opinion and tells May that his opinion is not important already, became famous, and has many customers and talks with her with defiance, and informs her that she is still in the beginning of the road, and makes her understand that she will never be able to reach the success that he reached, and the day of the party comes, and May is surprised that Paul is present for presenting the food, and May starts in presenting the food to the lady of the party and her guests, and as soon as they taste the food they like its taste very much, but Paul surprises everyone, and presents his food in a strange way to the degree that he is prepared with a whole bull, and cooks it in front of all who are present, and after that he puts it in front of them and makes them eat the meat with their hands. And at that time the lady of the party and her guests are amazed, and in the peak of happiness while they are eating, and in this moment May decides that she presents to them the noodles that she makes in her father's restaurant, and even though the lady of the party and her guests are wondering, but as soon as they eat the noodles they like its taste very much, and here May notices that Paul prepares a normal soup with simple ingredients, and of course the soup likes all who are present, so Paul goes to May and tells her that the rich people do not care about the variety of food that he presents, but what cares for them is the appearances and the show, and confirms to her that she will not be able to triumph over him no matter what she did. But suddenly the police come and arrest Paul, and in this moment all who are present in the party watch a video published on the internet, and Paul appears in the video. He is cooking the bird threatened with extinction, and which is forbidden its hunting and eating, and here all of them get annoyed from what Paul did because he violated the law. But May is sad, especially when Paul tells her that what happened this is a betrayal, and asks if this is the way that she will achieve her dream with, but May does not answer him and is not understanding what is happening. And after the police take Paul, Tuz goes to May and is with Tony and informs her that Tony is the one who published the video, and this in exchange for that Tuz will support him and will open for him a private restaurant of his own, and Tuz completes his talk and says to May that she this way triumphed over Paul, and the time came in order to become famous and take his place. But May is shocked and cries and leaves him and goes away because she does not like to compromise her principles in exchange for that she be famous, and May returns to her father's restaurant. And as soon as she enters, she hugs her father and cries and stands in front of him and in front of her friends who work in the restaurant and apologizes to them because she left them throughout the past period, and tells them that she will achieve her fame from this restaurant, and grabs the pan and starts making the noodles that she is special in, and the movie ends.